Hey there, I'm Lee Ullman here with some big news from the National Young Farmers Coalition. We're partnering with Heritage Radio Network on a special season of The Farm Report. It's all about what's happening with the Farm Bill and how it impacts farmers and eaters.
I am growing diversified vegetables on land that's been in our family for 150 years.
And so with the pandemic, gentrification, property values going up, we had to sell the land and we lost it.
Join us as we uncover the untold stories behind this massive piece of legislation that shapes how we grow our food, what we eat, and so much more.
The problems we have had, those are things that come from earlier Farm Bill and USDA policy, right? Like Earl Butts, get big or get out.
You know, it's my responsibility to know not only what I'm eating, but then like how that all came to be. And realize like, wow, like this piece of legislation, all this money, like it's technically something that I support as a taxpayer.
While Congress debates the next Farm Bill, this is not just an invitation to listen. It's a call to action. Be part of the conversation. Subscribe to the Farm Report on Heritage Radio Network, wherever you listen to podcasts.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network. Since 2009, HRN podcasts have been exploring the wide world of food, beverage, and agriculture. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org.
This episode is brought to you by Wisconsin Cheese. We've been making cheese in Wisconsin since before we were even a state, which may be one reason why we win so many awards for it. It's what happens when a whole state dreams in cheese. Find your next favorite cheese at wisconsincheese.com.
We talk about food, we talk about music, with musical dudes, finger on the pulse, snacky tunes.
Hello and welcome to Snacky Tunes. I'm your host, Darren Bresnitz. Thank you for joining us today as we head up north from LA to San Francisco to chat with Artie Shetty and Chris Blythorn, the couple and owners behind Birdsong and Birdbox. We talk about how they met, their road to opening their first restaurant, and their viral hit during the pandemic, Claw the Claw, one of the most incredible fried chickens you've ever seen on the internet and in real life. It's a great conversation, a lot of great insights, and a very, very delicious insight into how to start and pivot when you have restaurants. And then we dig into the archives going all the way back to 2016 to have Michael Davis, who was on to talk about his 2-album set, Orchids and Violence, which came out on Nonsense Records. He shares a lot of great stories and a stripped down, beautiful performance. It's a great show. Hope you enjoy it on a Sunday or whenever you're listening to Snacky Tunes here on Heritage Radio Network. Artie and Chris, welcome to Snacky Tunes. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me. Really appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Excited.
Before we dig in, how are you faring after the storms? I know the North got hit pretty hard, and San Francisco was no exception.
There's been some surprises, but I think we got it under control now. So
yeah,
we kind of escaped it a little bit. We were in Yosemite for the first week of January, just staying low. So
yeah, I know a few friends who knew they had some holes in roofs, but didn't understand how holes like that could allow so much damage inside their places of business.
Yeah, we came back to some, fun surprises.
It's rare these days to have a husband and a wife team as co-owners. And before we get into how you became business partners, how did you two meet? Where did you first cross paths?
We met at Benu, which is a restaurant here, obviously, but this is 12 years ago or 11 years ago. Chris was a sous chef and I was a wannabe cook.
And, it's one thing, I think, to have a relationship evolve, and it's another thing to go into business together and to have a similar idea. How did that evolve over time? Did you guys like the way each other worked, or did you guys like the way that you two got along? How did your partnership build?
I think we had the same type of, drive and focus, towards a goal, I guess. Whether we get along all the time and things like that's always like up and down, especially when it comes to like heated moments in the restaurant. But we both do very different things as well. And surely they do kind of collide every once in a while, but our tasks are very different. And we she's very good at her tasks and I'm pretty good at mine. So, every once in a while there's, suggestions of, maybe we should do that. And conversations become more fun, but we get along pretty well. And given like the hundreds of tasks in the restaurant, it's like, we're busy, always fixing a problem in restaurants,
Now, I know, Chris, that you've cooked in quite a few restaurants. How did you go from moving around cooking to deciding to eventually open up your own spot? And in the same vein, I know a lot of times when people who become partners in a restaurant meet in one restaurant, not to besmirch Benu, but they're like, okay, we like some of these things, but we want to do something different. How did you sort of marry the idea to do your own thing and knew when it was time to do that?
Well, I lived in San Diego most of my career, and I loved the town down there, so I never left. So I was working there for 8 years for one chef, content, happy, and then I was always ambitious, in the kitchen, and I always, I was always like trying to do something else, whereas people around me would sort of just do their jobs or, get the task done.
Of course.
Trying to, problem solve, make new problems, make new dishes. And then finally it came to, a time where, and this is like when the economy had its first crash, back in
08, 09?
2008 or so.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, it came to a point where I've been there for 8 years. Mass layoffs were happening. Restaurants were like dead again.
Cheeseburger City everywhere.
Yeah. And it could have been like one of those things that, do I stay in San Diego and kind of, stay in the same pace, or should I, give it a shot, try to work somewhere else? And I've had, this thought that like, you can either be pushing yourself and you're doing better, or if you're not pushing yourself and you're just plateauing and you're staying on an even plane, you're always getting worse, and I never want to get worse. So even though my skills weren't like going down, I was still like, I was in a place where I felt like
It was comfortable.
yes, comfortable and
Yeah.
glad.
Yep.
And this is like when Twitter was first starting to get popular, and Grant Achatz put an ad on Twitter, looking for cooks. I applied like 20 times. I finally
Just slid into those DMs. Hey
Yeah.
man, what's up?
This is the time where you had to apply, 20 to 30 times to get a job, whereas like now, we'll just take anybody.
Yeah, it's the labor market's a little different.
Oh man, yeah. So I applied probably 20 to 30 times, sent an email over and over and over again, and I finally got a stop. So stopped everything, flew over there, got the job, and then moved to Chicago a couple months later.
Wow. But San Francisco pulled you back, didn't it?
I mean, I always liked California.
I mean, California, right, because you were in San Diego, but San Francisco called you.
Yeah, when I lived in San Diego, we would come up here to like check out restaurants, because at that time San Diego food was pretty crappy, except for tacos.
Sure,
tacos are amazing there, and now it's a lot better. But I always wanted to open a restaurant there, and we would look to San Francisco. Not even LA. LA was pretty bad at the time too.
Yeah. I mean, San Francisco, when I was in New York, was the versus city. I guess if you want to get into that weird, I remember, it was like San Francisco versus New York.
Yeah.
So that it had the reputation of like the be all end all city on the West Coast.
Exactly. French Laundry was, very popular.
Yeah.
Like in its prime then. So we would always go up north and just like eat at restaurants and, check out the scene. And then Chicago was doing very well. A bunch of modern food was really taking off. So
Blackbird and Schwa and all those places. Yeah.
Exactly. And then, Grant Achatz obviously was doing crazy things.
Yeah.
Like I needed to work there. So I just, in my mind, I knew I had to work there. So I made sure I did. And then I didn't want to stay in Chicago.
Those winters.
I mean, I'm from Boston. So.
Oh, okay.
Went from Boston to San Diego. And I didn't want to go back to the East Coast. So. And then I knew, Chef Corey.
Boston wasn't great at the time either for restaurants.
Still,
there was like Oya and like one or two other places, but there wasn't much.
And it's just it's still only those like two places.
There's a couple. I was recently there last year, and I was like, there's Sarma. I was surprised. I was like, okay, Boston, you could do a full weekend of eating there and been like,
oh, cool.
Yeah. I'll send you a list once we get off. I'll let you know.
We don't go out there very often anymore. Yeah.
No. But so then San Francisco called you.
Yeah, because
come.
Chef Corey was opening a restaurant, and I just, when I was young, I used to just like watch YouTube videos of him speaking, how he thought about food, just like, very professional and really focused on, a common goal, which is just creating good food, clean. But he spoke, more intellectual about food than most chefs. And I was like, I need to go work there.
Yeah. Now, Artie, you said that you were trying your hand at cooking, and, not that there was like, especially during those times in 2000s, like front of house or back of house, I feel like it was all sort of at the same level of respect, unless you were like the Grants of the world. But what made you decide that there could be another role for you in the restaurant world? What made you decide to look at a different aspect of the industry?
So I was never in the restaurant world. I'm a biomedical engineer, and that's my background. I work in the med device world even now. But I always had a special interest for cooking. When I was young, came from a very traditional Indian family. Being a chef was not an option. So I pursued my sciencey path.
Sure.
But at some point when I was talking to a colleague at work, and I was like, one day I'll open a restaurant, and he made a comment, do you even know what it takes to open a restaurant? This is me in my early 20s. And I had a job in med device consulting where I traveled a lot. But I just showed up at a restaurant. This is in Texas. in San Antonio, and I said, "Can I observe? Can I cook?" And they're like, "Do you cook?" And I'm like, "No, never cooked. This is just naive." I read somewhere recently, and I shared it with Chris. When you don't know anything is when you are most confident.
Oh yeah.
And that's what it was. It was so naive that I was confident enough to show up. I wouldn't do that now. But they let me. And long story short is San Antonio obviously reaches its peak in terms of the chefs you can learn from.
Sure.
But I cooked every weekend at these restaurants, and a chef there said, "You know what? You need to branch out. Let me connect you to Daniel Patterson at Qua. You should take a couple of weeks off and go stage there." I did that, stage for a month at Qua. And that's when Corey was opening Benu. So my sister was like, "Let me treat you to Benu. You followed Corey." So we went and ate at Benu the first month. And I spoke to Corey that night and said, "Hey, can I come here next year and stage?" Because I could take only, a couple of weeks off from work.
Yeah.
So I did that in 2011. And that's when I met Chris there. And I staged at Benu for like 2 years every weekend. And then I went on to become the director of operations there.
Wow. It's so interesting to talk about that time and era of dining, because obviously post-pandemic things have changed. But even pre-pandemic, I feel like with Instagram and social media, it's like, oh, I can go to a restaurant without going. And I know how that sounds. It's like you can sort of get an experience of a place. But back then it was so much like, if I want to see what's going on and to even have my mind blown and walk in a little bit blind, which is probably what I'm getting at. The idea of walking into a place and not, I know all 8 courses, I know the secret courses. It was that moment where like I physically have to go there to really experience it. And you both were that in different cities.
Yep.
How did that shape your mindset of being able to experience and cook and work in the restaurant into that time as you started working your way to opening up Birdsong?
A lot. I feel that I'm glad for those years where I was able to spend time in kitchens. I have so much respect for anyone who works in the kitchen. Now, I'm not even saying, the Chris Lightrons and the Corey Lees. I'm not talking about that genre of chefs either. I'm talking about anybody who can work in a kitchen and can do that work. I have so much respect. And I feel that as a business owner, it helps you think about those people every day, right? Like a lot of decisions that you make sometimes, if you've not seen that, and I'm not stereotyping here, of course, everybody has a different lens, but when you've not seen that in restaurants and not experienced that, I feel it's very difficult to kind of make certain decisions. And I'm glad I was able to spend some time in the kitchens.
Well, listen, I want to take a quick musical break because I want to get into the actual opening of Birdsong, and then your eventual pandemic pivot to Birdbox. But we have a song from the archives here on Snacky Tunes on Heritage Radio Network. welcome back to Snacky Tunes. We are here with Artie Shetty and Chris Blydarn of Birdsong and Birdbox in San Francisco. And Artie, before the break, you said before starting anything and knowing anything about anything is when you have the most confidence. But you two were deep into the restaurant industry before you decided to open up your first spot. So knowing where all the bodies are buried as best you can in a place that is not your own in the restaurant industry, what made you want to open up your own restaurant, Birdsong, in 2018, especially a fine dining spot?
We just love restaurants. We still feel the same, magic and passion for food and dining and this industry, just the way we did in our early 20s, and we're following these chefs and all of that. When Chris and I met, I mean, the story goes, by the second date, we were building our business plan. So it was always something that we wanted to do. So it was not even, we didn't even think of, like, it was a natural progression for us.
I mean, we were very naive about it at first too. Just because you have all this, that's the thing, you have all this experience in restaurants, and you could work at all these great restaurants, even, Michelin star after Michelin star, go to Europe, and you're a young cook in there, and you're excited, and you're learning, and like you think you're the best, and you're working with the best. You still don't, until like you really start putting together numbers and like, seeing things on paper. Like, you just don't know how impossible restaurants are, and how impossible they can be, unless you need more than just a chef, I think is what I'm saying. If it was just me, like, Birdsong would be gone for sure. I would have spent all the money on like fancy kitchen tools and things like that.
Sure.
Like,
more microgreens than you can shake a stick at, right?
Yeah, like everything would be at the farmer's market by now. It'd be,
yeah.
You need someone else to like, because I'm always just in full. I got the pedal to the metal. I'm always
yeah.
I see new things and I want it. I need someone to put the brakes on for a little bit.
Sometimes you need someone to tell you that it will still be great, and this doesn't matter in the way that you think it does. And then you go, oh, okay. And even if you don't believe it, then you got to trust them too. You're like, all right, I'll trust you.
And exactly. It's not about someone telling you. It's just about someone watching. Because when you're in the kitchen, there's probably like 5 things going wrong at all times, by 5 different people. And, you just get focused on other things. And then, important things kind of, go right by you. So you just need someone else to watch it. You really need to have a team.
Now, I've read that you have this great analogy about the way that Birdsong runs, the way like a song or an orchestra does. How does that work together with essentially 2 conductors? How do you see the flow of the restaurant being so melodic?
So, I mean, when we expedite Birdsong, it actually really is like a conductor. The expediter is right in the dining room, so, right in the middle, and then the back of the expediter is sort of faced towards the dining room, just as if you're going to go, watch a symphony. And then to the left and the right, there's guests, and then facing that expediter is the other chef that's like running the kitchen. So basically, you have a stove on one side, and there's an expediter on one side of the stove, and then there's like the main kitchen contact on the other, and they're just looking at each other the whole time. And then on left and right side is like when all this work gets done. The right side will be cold stuff, the left side will be hot, and then that's all happening to the left and right of us, and then it just gets pushed forward. So it's hard to explain without a visual, but
no, you paint a good picture. I got it. I can see it. It's when you hit that rhythm, when it all falling into place. I mean, it's addictive in some ways to be in that flow, and I can understand why you two keep coming back to it, and instead of playing someone else's songs, want to create your own.
Yeah, I mean, when nights are going great,
yeah.
When you have a busy night and it goes great, like there's a very memorable, evening for everybody. The cooks, us, the guests. You can just tell that, there's an energy that is very, very special.
We live for that in a way, that's
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But what Birdsong unique is that like that kitchen is in the dining. There's only one room, so there's no wall that separates us. Guests are just about 5 feet from the chefs.
Stove, yeah.
So they really feel what we're feeling.
On good nights and bad, right?
Good nights and bad, yeah.
It's a good energy. It's kind of like you're feeding off each other, like you can feel there's like when the guests have a certain energy, we feed off that energy and vice versa. So it's a very, it's a really good rhythm.
I love it. Now, you alluded to surviving the industry during the first economic downturn in 2008, 2009, but you didn't have your own spot, which was different when the pandemic hit in 2020.
Yeah, I thought we were past those days.
Yeah, are we? I don't know. We could talk about that in a little bit, but it's rare because we actually don't always have people who have a viral hit dish, because most people who have a viral hit dish also don't have a fine dining restaurant. But you I don't want to say stumbled, but you created this incredible fried chicken called Clawed the Claw, which was, I feel like, everywhere, which was the fried chicken sandwich with the actual claw on. But it really did have this big sustainability message tied into it, which whole bird, beak to feathers, beak to tail, whatever you want to call it. But I'd love to know what it was like to, one, go through that moment of having to pivot from fine dining, but then two, to actually be on the other end of a viral hit. What was it like to see that creation everywhere, to be on the news, to be in every Instagram post, to see people make, homages to that dish?
I mean, let me first start by saying when the pandemic hit and we closed, I distinctly remember this because we come home and we have all these texts from friends that, are you going to figure out a way to box these courses and whatever, and do that? And then Chris was like, we're just going to wait this out because, we all were like, we'll be back to normal life in 2 weeks, right? And he specifically said, I'm not going to do anything. We're not going to do takeout.
Right.
This person who's been working, 16, 17 hours daily for years now, next day wakes up and says, I'm going to go and see what we're going to do. Goes to the restaurant, sees all these beautiful chickens hanging because we use those really nice chickens for a box at Birdsong. And that's how the chicken happened. So I think, on this side of it all, it was like, we don't know what we're doing. And we just did this chicken sandwich. But then I'll let you talk to the other side of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, at Birdsong, we don't serve chicken, but we go through a ridiculous amount of chicken.
Explain. Can you just quickly explain?
We make sauces every single day. So it's not like big batches or stocks and things like that. We will use the whole bird of a chicken to create, bouillons and base teas and broths. And we'll use the bones, we'll use the marrow, and we'll use the feet. All those are very important, for anything liquid at Birdsong. So sure. At any given time, we usually have about, 40 to 50 whole chickens hanging in our dryage. So we have unlike what makes us kind of unique is that we built a whole dryage specifically just for meat. So like big butchering program at Birdsong. So we'll just buy whole birds, big pieces, half hogs, whole hogs, and then we'll kind of do all the butchering. That way we can allow them to like hang and so we get more time on them and develop flavor and age and things like that. So we always have these birds, and then every single day to run Birdsong, it takes about 7.5 chickens a day. Every single day they get cut up, the bones get smashed in half to expose the marrow, the feet get cut off. Some go in bouillon, some go in broths, and some will go in sauces, and they all get dispersed and hand roasted over fire. So when we went, all of a sudden we closed, we had, I don't know, like 10 cases of chicken in there. I was like, well, first thing we have to do is get rid of this. So, and fried was an easy thing. We all love fried chicken. I love making fried chicken, and I wanted to no intention ever to open a restaurant of fried chicken, by the way.
Of
But I
course.
I just wanted to know how to make amazing fried chicken. So we first did it on cast iron, and we're like, yeah, this is not going to work. So then we had Birdsong loaded with pots, of fried chicken, and then we have all the feet there, and we were just playing around with butchering. Like, what if we just serve a fried chicken sandwich with the foot on? It'll help us during the pandemic. It will create some excitement. Not thinking within just like initial excitement, we can get through these chickens. Because that's all I was concerned about, selling the chickens and then figuring out what we're going to do next.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of like got crazy.
That's an understatement. Yeah.
Yeah. It just really went from 0 to 100, and we were serving a lot of them. And then it kind of slowed down a little bit. And
Sure.
we went to, like, getting rid of some of our other inventory, doing, like small little tasting menus to get rid of all the lamb and duck we had. And then we were serving, chicken at the same time. And then it went on the news and on TV and stuff like that.
But really what happened there was also when we were selling those chicken sandwiches with feet, and now we sell a chicken breast sandwiches as well. But at that time we were only selling the clawed, right?
Yeah.
Clawed later. But we did have so many customers tell us, oh, can you cut off the feet? And Chris would always say, no, we're not cutting the feet.
Love it.
And then slowly that we spoke to the team, and it kind of became this thing that in the restaurant world, the feet doesn't freak us out. I'm from India. I grew up, I used to go with my dad to pick the chicken that we're gonna, so I've seen it. The feet didn't scare me. And same with other people who grew up in other countries. But I think in America, we're so used to the supermarket chicken.
Yeah.
Kind of was like, oh, this is a moment like to really maybe make a point that the reason, what is the reason that you've not seen a chicken feet, and making them less afraid of that chicken feet. So we continued, like entire pandemic, we didn't sell a chicken without the chicken feet.
That's great. I mean, I feel like it's sort of America and only other handful of countries that aren't used to the foot.
Yeah.
When it comes to the chicken.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we're back to relative new normal of restaurants and Birdsong has reopened, you've also opened Birdbox to focus on fried chicken, and you're using all the parts and things like that. How do the restaurants work together? Are they completely separate entities? How are they two places, one fine dining, one fast casual, can we say? How are they talking to each other?
I mean, they talk to each other in terms of it's flavor first. Both of them, similarities, certainly flavor first, and that goes with how we source our ingredients. So chickens are important there. For the most part, we get the same chickens we'll get at Birdbox as we do at Birdsong. We actually get better chickens at Birdbox than we get at Birdsong. Mostly all pasture raised at Birdbox. Where at Birdsong, they're not so much pasture raised; they're just organic.
Right, but so, different uses.
Different uses as well. Exactly. Yeah. So, in that way, they speak the same language. But in terms of kind of everything else, Birdbox is. I can't even say louder because Birdsong has a pretty chill vibe as well. But it's just come in with your family. Kind of, you'll be licking your fingers a lot, still like same vibe, but, just one of those things you just come in when you have a, half hour of time or lunch, where at Birdsong, it's, it's excitement. You lead up to it. You make a reservation, you're waiting all week type thing.
Yeah. The last few weeks has had a lot of conversations about the future of fine dining and its sustainability and so much hand wringing and, things like that. And now that you have two restaurants on both sides of the spectrum, any thoughts about the fine dining world and the future of it? Or is it just these are the media headlines in the food we'll be reading this week, and then in 2 weeks, fine dining is back in here to stay?
I think it's a hot topic that, everybody, not just media, I feel like even within the industry,
Yeah.
we all talk and explore that thought. I mean, I'll give my take here. I feel that fine dining is here to stay.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can see that even from the labor perspective.
Mm-hmm.
We all read the shortages and all that, but from a fine dining perspective, it is coming back. Like we are being able. I'm talking more from the back of house perspective here.
Sure.
Front of house is still a challenge from both ends of the spectrum. But back of house, you see like the cooks coming back into the fine dining world, but not so much into that casual world, So I think the magic that I mentioned, or this desire to create this, artful, thoughtful food, I think that still exists. And that makes me feel that there is hope for fine dining to continue if I think the chefs and the restaurateurs and the operators can figure out an efficient model to do so, because the cost of food has risen, but there's only so much, there's so much willingness to pay. So I feel like somewhere something needs to shift. Cities like San Francisco and New York, where there is a lot of wealth, I feel that we didn't feel the pinch so much. Like people came back. When I say people, I mean our guests came back after the pandemic, and but I maybe I'm just wishful thinking, but I think fine dining is here to stay.
I mean, I think so too. I mean, there's really two types of restaurants for me. There's a fine dining restaurant and a fast casual restaurant that's owned, operated, designed by a chef, and then there's fast casual and fast food that's owned and operated, by a business person.
Yeah,
and
corporation.
Those two, when you put a line between those two categories, the restaurants are very different. You can see the similarities between, both categories of restaurants, meaning like fast casual and fine dining, if it's owned by a chef. Because, I mean, for us, we put in so much. It's not just about the food for Birdsong. There's the design, how it feels when you walk in, the plates. And then I was like, oh, when we open this chicken restaurant, we won't have to put so much energy on this. This will be kind of easy. But then we found ourselves just because we weren't like, I wasn't talking to an artist, developing ceramics for our food. We put in so much time for like, what are the boxes going to look like?
Yeah.
It was just as much time as we spent on paper, vessels as we do on ceramic ones. So, I just think a chef and a real true restaurateur, they just can't get away from that, whereas on the other side, it's just, just pick, that will work. And you can notice the difference. And those people are going to continue to open restaurants, and they're going to want to be ambitious, and they're going to want to open up a fine dining restaurant. And maybe that fine dining restaurant will even change more so what it is today, tomorrow. I mean, went from white tablecloths to no tablecloths to like, to piano to, we play like Jimmy Buffett in our dining room sometimes,
Sure.
And, who knows what it's going to be like in 10 years, but there's still going to be a fine dining, and there's still going to be a lot of thought and intention behind it. So
awesome. Well, Artie and Chris, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us. If people want to check out Birdsong and Birdbox, where can they go?
You mean, how do they check it out? Like on websites?
Websites, online, Instagram, Facebook. Yeah. I don't know if you get it.
So we have a website for both. Just look up Birdsong SF or Birdbox SF. We have Instagram pages as well, very well managed by our dear Zoe Wong, who has some good content.
They're very nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And then show up anytime at Birdbox. We're open 5 days a week, no reservations. And Birdsong, look for reservations on our website.
Yeah.
Amazing. How far out should I plan it for Birdsong if I want to get lucky?
You just reach out to us. We'll make things happen.
I'm standing in as an avatar for the listeners. Like a couple weeks, a month. What are we talking about here?
On the weekends, maybe plan 30 days ahead. That's when we release it, and weekends book out. Weekdays, there are cancellations and all of that.
Sure.
So even a week out is fine.
Yeah, but if you want that 7 o'clock on a Friday or Saturday,
30 days out.
30 days out.
I tell people to plan. I always plan. If I can, I'll just hop online and make a reservation instead of having to annoy a chef or an owner on a busy night. Well, listen, thank you so much. Big shout out to Parker for helping set up this interview. We have a song from the archives and then a live performance here on Snacky Tunes on Heritage Radio Network.
This episode is brought to you by Wisconsin Cheese. There's a reason when you think of Wisconsin, you think cheese. Cheese is a huge part of Wisconsin's history and future. In Wisconsin, the state of cheese, the tradition of cheese-making excellence began 180 years ago, before Wisconsin was recognized as a state. Immigrants traveled to settle in this lush green hills of Wisconsin, bringing their cheese-making traditions with them. These storied skills, combined with the freshest milk available, created a cheese-making culture that is uniquely Wisconsin. Wisconsin's 1,200 cheesemakers, many of whom are third and fourth generation, continue to pass on old-world traditions while adopting modern innovations in cheese-making craftsmanship. Find your next favorite cheese at wisconsincheese.com.
All right. Michael and crew, welcome to Snacky Tunes.
Hey there.
You want to go around the room and introduce yourselves?
Sure, absolutely. Here we got on the mandolin we got Dominic Leslie and Jen Larson. She's gonna be singing here with me, and on the bass Larry Cook.
Welcome from across the room. I mean, across the trailer.
Glad to be here.
I'm so excited you're here because the record you just put out is such an amazing concept that, like, I think people kind of, like, dream about that an artist would do, but you actually did it. For those of you who don't know, it's called Orchids and Violence on Nonesuch, which is equally just, like, one of the best labels that's ever existed in the history of labels.
I agree, yeah.
Just if you are into, like, music that is just good across all type of genres, just go listen to everything they've ever done.
They've got a pretty amazing output over the last 50 years or so.
It's pretty incredible. But what you've done, and just to for the people who are not prepared for this episode, you took pretty much the same song and did it twice.
Yeah, it's the same 12 songs. It started with 12 mostly traditional songs, or like old time and bluegrass and old murder ballads and whatnot. And I did the same track list on 2 discs. So the first disc is like straight ahead bluegrass, which is pretty much what we're going to be playing today. And the second disc, I did the same songs in the same order, but it's kind of an experimental electric album. So reinterpreted them kind of from the ground up in some cases.
And I'm sure that you'll probably get this question asked to you through all the interviews, but like, where did this come from, and why did you feel the desire to do this? Well, I came out of bluegrass music. That's something I grew up with. So my parents played fiddle and banjo, so it was in the household growing up, and so it's always just been a part of who I am as personally and musically, and something I've really gravitated back to, especially in the last 10 years of my life or so. I just really ended up doing primarily bluegrass music, but along the way, it definitely gotten way into other forms of music, experimental music, jazz, noise rock, all these, different influences are also part of me. And so when I wanted to record an album and was trying to figure out what sort of album I wanted to do, and I knew I wanted to do something that really kind of hung together as a piece. I didn't want to just kind of record a collection of tunes and kind of have it be a bunch of singles. So and I didn't want to do sort of a mishmash of too many influences. I wanted it to be kind of about one thing. But then I couldn't really figure out what, whether to kind of do the traditional bluegrass thing, which has really been a big part of what I've done in the last 10 years, or express some of these kind of more experimental ideas. And so this was a solution. This double album concept was kind of... Someone called a solution. Someone called like masochistic.
Yeah, it was an opportunity to take these old songs, which many of which have been around for hundreds of years. Who knows how long? Some of these old murder ballads are really hundreds of years old, and have had a lot of life. Even before bluegrass music was a thing, and so they just they get performed in the style of whoever's performing them, whether it's 1750 or 1900 or 1950 or now, and everyone just kind of brings their own experience to it. So it was just kind of taking part of the process of people have for years, hundreds of years, continually reworked these songs. So just getting to explore them in very much in the bluegrass tradition, which again I love, and primarily work in, with a band of musicians that I just really wanted to get together in a room. But then also, take those same songs.
Do you find that every time you explore a song or re-explore it, it extends its life and gives it a new lease on it?
Well, I believe that's what these songs are meant for. These songs have been around for hundreds of years. They're enduring because they have a way of they are sort of a template or a container for the experience and the emotions of whoever's singing them. And so, everyone who sings these songs, it's a folk tradition, and so everyone sort of brings their own perspective to it. And these are two musical perspectives that I was able to present on this recording. The bluegrass and this sort of more experimental side, which also gave me an opportunity to kind of explore the contrasts and versions, and kind of the puzzle for me to solve.
Which I think we definitely want to address, but because you said it twice, murder ballads. What makes a good murder ballad for the uninitiated?
Oh man, well, there's so many murder ballads to choose from, and
is that like a canon? I mean, is that a canon?
Yeah,
of music?
It's a genre. Yeah, absolutely. There's a bunch of great ones. I recorded Pretty Polly on these albums. The Knoxville Girl, Omi Wise. Banks of the Ohio. It goes on and on. There are so many of them that are done to this day, and they're all so brutal. And I think that's
what makes like a really good like a torch song, like you hear a good torch and you're like, damn, that's really good. They really love that person. Like, what makes like a good murder ballad?
Well, it's got to be gruesome and brutal. I mean, I think people sort of need that artistic engagement with death, with violence, with brutality. We have that in horror movies and action movies, and I think it's important for people to kind of get to engage in that in a song, rather than in real life experience.
Okay, I just got threatened on the radio. You all heard this.
That's why we have these songs. So they're songs that just express all aspects of human experience, and so in singing these songs and hearing these songs, you feel this kind of pathos for the victim, and you want the perpetrator to be brought to justice. And one of my favorite ones, Knoxville Girl, which was most famously recorded by the Louvin Brothers. I mean, part of is that they record that song in such a kind of upbeat manner. They're like, I met a little girl in Knoxville. It's very almost kind of like upbeat and happy sounding, like they're at a party or something, but it's this gruesome murder, and that sort of makes it all the more twisted.
Right.
That it's, there's a great recording of Nick Cave singing Knoxville Girl, which is totally the other way. He's like, he seems way into it.
Yeah.
But that's what you want.
He's like, wish I was there.
Yeah.
Can we hear? What are you going to play for us first?
Sure. Well, this is not a murder ballad.
No.
At all.
Okay. No.
Actually, this is after all this talk about old songs, we're actually going to lead off with a song that I recorded. This is the one song on the record that's not an old traditional number. It's actually by a Seattle band called Mother Love Bone, who were a proto grunge band who I really love.
Yeah, they're wonderful.
Yeah, they're awesome. Yeah, and they broke up. Some of their members went on to form Pearl Jam and other bands. But I thought this would make a good bluegrass song.
Okay.
It's called Stargazer.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Let's do it.
No murders.
No murders.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Crazy, crazy, I'm the boy who defies all. Yeah, gets me higher than anyone. gets any higher than anyone. I miss her so. Yeah. Stargazer, you call the shine, and I'll take on. Stargazer, won't you kick with me? Stargazer, you call the shine, and I'll take on. Stargazer, won't you kick with me? Dominic. Stargazer, you crying through anything I've ever seen. It ain't as good as you, child. I'm not trying to push your feelings, but you know you hold me like buddy in your hand. Cry for me and rub it in, cry for the Savior and the prophet son. Cry for me and rub the end. Oh, won't you come back again? Cry for me and Juliet. Oh, won't you come back again?
So what? When you were writing this, like, what came first, the bluegrass song or the rock version?
Well, I mean, this. I'm sorry. When I was arranging it.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
yeah.
well, I mean, more than that, like when you were putting the two kind of like records together, did you do all the bluegrass versions first, or did you do a bluegrass one and then you did the rock version of that? Like, how did that come to be?
Well, the electric versions kind of started out maybe about 8 years ago. I had kind of come up with a batch of arrangements. I was at the time playing drums, and guitar and singing at the same time, so sitting down, and my wife was playing bass. So we had kind of arranged, maybe about 6 or 7 old bluegrass songs for that format, and that was sort of the seed of the electric record. And I knew what direction I wanted to take that in for the recording to some degree, and then. So I picked the songs that were going to go on each album, and so we recorded the bluegrass record first. So those got finished and arranged first, and then, of course, once that was set and I knew what that was going to sound like, then this idea continued to evolve as far as how to arrange the electric stuff, because it was sort of a puzzle and a project of kind of getting each album to flow differently and really have its own identity that would stand alone. Without needing the other album, but making sure each song, was different, and if you did listen to them side by side, there would be some interesting contrast there.
Awesome. Can you talk a little bit about the difference in the recording process for the two albums? and your approach to each one.
Sure. Yeah. The recording process was really different for the bluegrass record. We did it all live in a big room over 3 days. Recorded tape in the Old First Church in Brooklyn. They have an upper hall there, which is amazing sounding for acoustic music. And so we just did it with 4 microphones, 4 tracks, and just got everyone there playing together, bleeding into the other mics, and just kind of recording the sound of the room. So the concept was it was kind of a recorded event. No. We didn't really do any overdubs or edits, or we did just a few edits, but it was basically a live event. And then
for those who can't see in the room here, they're all just standing around one mic. This I feel like we just went back to how radio used to happen with you guys. This is it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, a lot of bluegrass bands will perform, the whole band will perform around a single condenser mic.
Yeah, I feel blessed. It's cool.
Yeah, it's we prefer it.
Yeah.
Anyways, but the electric record was done over about 3 months. I did most of it in my home studio, and some of it in other rooms, and I played most of the instruments myself. I had my wife Jessie Carter played bass on it, and we had a cameo in one song by Tony Trischka on the banjo. But everything else I just tracked myself, so it was not at all done live. It was a layered studio creation, and that was kind of part of the concept there, and kind of creating the contrast is to have the recording processes being very different.
3 days versus 3 months,
That's,
a bit of a difference. And for people who are listening to them side by side, you don't need to give away all the secrets, but is there anything or any particular pairing of tracks that you would point out that you were happy or surprised by how they sounded side by side?
Well, maybe it's a good time to bring up the vinyl release. It just came out last week. The double CD, which came out at the end of February, is called Orchids and Violence, and then we just released a vinyl edition called Violence and Orchids. And the difference is that it's just the vinyl edition is just one disc, and it takes 5 songs, 5 each from the bluegrass and the electric discs, and then kind of interleaves them. So you get the bluegrass version of June Apple, the electric version of June Apple, and there's a whole sequence that's kind of designed to sort of highlight the contrast between the tracks. So I would encourage you to check that out and decide for yourself.
and which one is which? Which is the bluegrass and which is the electric? Is it orchids? Which one's orchids? Which one's violence?
I won't commit. The whole thing is just called Orchids and Violence.
Okay.
You can think of that what you will.
Maybe while we're doing a murder ballad, I'll get you to tell me.
Yeah.
Do you want to play another one for us?
Sure. I'm going to do a song while Larry on bass. We're going to give you a little break. You can go have some whiskey and pizza. But Jen Larson and I are going to sing this as a duet, and with Dominic on the mandolin. Recorded this one on the record. I did as a duet with Sarah Jarose. And it's written by Whit Khanna, who's he and his wife Barbara down in Atlanta are my musical godparents. So I'm sending this out to Whit and Barbara. Whit's song called Dark Angel. It's not a murder ballad, but there is death.
We're getting there.
Involved.
We're getting there. We're getting close.
Yeah, we've got 3 songs today, so it's called Dark Angel.
Thundering lightning
So records out, vinyl's out.
Yes.
You had some release shows.
Yes.
What comes this summer?
Well, actually, there's one more release show. We're having a vinyl release show this Thursday in Brooklyn at Littlefield, which is in Gowanus on DeGrasse Street. And so that's going to feature both the electric band and the bluegrass band.
I was going to ask, like, how does the live... Obviously, we get the bluegrass, but how do the live shows work? And how does, like, the set list work, too?
well, yeah, for the CD release shows we did in New York back in March, it was the same as what we're doing this Thursday, which is have the bluegrass band play in the first set and the electric band play in the second set. For this, since this is the vinyl release show, each band is going to start out playing the 5 songs that are on the vinyl release.
Oh, wow.
So at the beginning of each set, you'll get to hear the contrasting versions of those songs.
That's incredible. And I mean, you're obviously doing double duty, but is anybody else wearing 2 hats or just 2 basses?
Well, on this Thursday, playing banjo with me is Tony Trischka, who's legendary banjo player. It's really lucky to have him. And Tony is the only musician other than myself who played on both discs. He played on one song on each disc, and so we're gonna do that song. Darlin' Corey, which actually we're going to close with today, but you'll hear Tony playing on the bluegrass and on the electric versions. But other than that, the band is different. And
then, are you able to take both out on the road, or do you have to pick one side?
No, it's not really road material there to travel with 2 bands. I'm playing with the bluegrass band. We're doing Rocky Grass Festival out in Colorado.
Oh,
it's a great bluegrass festival, and I'm doing a trio tour in June 9th, 10th, and 11th with Noam Bikilny on banjo and Brittany Haas on fiddle, who both played on the record. So that'll be the bluegrass sides. We're playing World Cafe in Philadelphia, Cafe 939 in Boston, and the Parlor Room in Northampton, Mass. So that's going on the road. And the electric band, which is now called Wax Lion, we're doing mostly New York shows. And that's with Jesse Carter on bass and Kid Millions on drums, who plays Oneida, and with Laurie Anderson and many other musicians. He's incredible, and so it's been a total joy working with him. If I had known him, I would have gotten him to play on the record. I actually played drums myself on the record, and then started working with Kid Millions on for the release shows, and that it's hopefully going to kind of be an ongoing project under the name Wax Lion.
Well, before we have one more song, kind of final question is, from really diving in and approaching these songs in like 2 very different ways, did it give you like any deeper appreciation either for the way the songs are constructed or the subject of the songs themselves?
Well, these songs are very malleable, and to me, it's a way of honoring the songs, to show that they work in different ways. Some bluegrass purists might be offended that I'm adding, fuzz pedals and a bunch of weird stuff on the second record, but I would argue that it's actually, it's out of deep respect of the songs and of the tradition of these songs, to do them 2 ways. And so, some of them are about something specific, like a murder or whatever, but a lot of these old songs are not really necessarily about anything in particular, or they don't need to be. And so I think they're made, what I think it shows me is that they're made to just kind of, for each performer to kind of put their own, experience into it. And I think that's why they're around for hundreds of years, and, some of them will probably still be around 100 years from now. People will be doing all sorts of different weird things with them, I hope.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
For all of us. Where can people find you, get the record, sign up for tour dates, all the good stuff?
Yep. Well, you can get all that information at my website, michaeldaves.com. DAVES. You can get the vinyl and the CD through None Such Records website, and Amazon, iTunes, all that stuff. can't get the vinyl from iTunes. That's I think what we like about vinyl.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, but
the one trick. Well, we want to thank you for coming by. Thank you to Tracy and Josh from Kings County Imperial. Please come to the barbecue on Tuesday. Shout out to Mom, Dad, Ornella, and the whole new Meatball Ace family and Bresnitz.
Shout out to Meatball. Shout out to Hannah. Shout out to the West Coast.
Okay.
Hello, West Coast. Yeah, I give up again for Dominic Leslie on the mandolin, Jen Larson singing with me, and Larry Cook on bass. Great to get to work with these guys.
Yeah, thank you for coming by. What are you going to take us out with?
Darling Corey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have a good rest of the week.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
sound. Now chorus feet are all lost and lost and grieve and around. Dig a hole in the meadow, dig a hole in the cold, cold ground. Dig a hole in the meadow, gonna lay it on the quarry down. Dig a hole in the meadow, dig a hole in the cold, cold ground. Dig a hole in the meadow, gonna lay it on the quarry down. We talk about food, we talk about music, with musical dudes. Finger on the pulse, snacky tunes.
Snacky Tunes is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.